I'll just cover some of our general announcements. I can get that stuff out of the way so we can kind of hit the ground running as soon as Elan joins. So like I said, if you can sign in with that sign-in form, that would be greatly appreciated. So some quick announcements. This Sunday, we have our virtual 5K fundraiser. I highly recommend you participate. You have a chance to win some really cool prizes, and if you participate, you will get, at the very least, some small items like stickers for UFSIT, maybe some lanyards. So no matter what, you're still going to get something out of it, and it's something that will really help benefit the club. All the money we earn from this 5K is going right back to you guys in the form of money for traveling to competitions or money for equipment, stuff like that. So all of this fundraising money is directly to benefit you guys. Then if you've been checking the Discord, you may have seen that Dark CTF starts today. So if you want to get your CTF hours in, or if you enjoy doing CTFs and getting solves, definitely check out Discord. The credentials have been posted. I think there's also Eco Party going on this weekend. So there's definitely several opportunities to get involved with Capture the Flag competitions this weekend. And then blue team meetings will be starting next Monday. They're at 6:30 and they will remain in that time slot for the rest of the semester, barring like changes in schedule. But that should be the main time. So if you want more information on those meetings, join the UFCCDC channel on Slack. We try as much as we can to cross-post things between Slack and Discord. So I'll make another announcement before the first blue team meeting, so that way you have that reminder. The red team meetings, they started this week. So John had the first meeting and he recorded slides. He recorded the video and posted the slides. So if you want to get caught up with what he covered during that meeting and work through the box that they covered, you can review the meeting video and work through it on your own time. And then also you can stay up to date with UFCPTC on Slack and the CPTC server on Discord. Then we have our cyber range. So this was something that we primarily did when we were in person. We would meet up in the we would meet up in the CSC building and work together in one of the rooms, usually order some food and just kind of exchange skills and ideas, really learn from one another. And it's mainly focused on building up the skills around CTF competitions, but it's a place for people to work on whatever they want. So we are adapting that to a virtual format. We're just going to be having it in Discord voice chat until we can meet in person again. And I don't know when that'll be, so you'll kind of have to bear with the Discord voice chat. If you have any questions on cyber range, Owen can answer them. He's been the one kind of leading the cyber range. And then our mentorship program is still open for sign up. So if you want to be a mentor or a mentee, just fill out that form and we will be matching based on technical interests and on various hobbies that you have. So we're trying to make the transition from being a newer or more inexperienced member, trying to make that transition easier, so that way you gain the skills to become a experienced member who is very confident in their skills. So that's the primary goal behind the mentorship program. And then this is just more information about the mentorship program. It's the same information we had in the first general body meeting, so I'm not going to go over it again, but it's just in there for when I share the slides. And then this is more information about the virtual 5K. So the entrance fee is $20. It will be this Sunday. You just record your route and your run time using an app like Strava. You screenshot it and send it in pretty much any channel you want, but to try and make things easier, I recommend the UFSIT Slack channel, UFSIT Discord channel, or just send it directly to me. You don't have to send your route if you participate in the fundraiser, but you will only be considered for prizes if you send a screenshot of your route. So that's up to you. You don't have to share that information. It's only if you want to be considered eligible for prizes. And we mentioned before that the entry gifts will probably be things like UFSIT stickers, lanyards, maybe some other small items. And the prizes will be bigger items like Raspberry Pis, UFSIT t-shirts, potentially a drone, hacking devices. So there's a lot of fun things that you could potentially earn by doing this 5K fundraiser. And all of that money goes straight back to you as a club member. And then our guest speaker has joined, so I am going to give him permissions to share and be co-host. So give me 1 minute, and then I will introduce him, let him introduce himself, and transition into the rest of the presentation.
All right. Sorry, that was my introduction, I guess. How's it? All right. I would say how's everybody doing, but I don't know if that's a good idea. Clara, have you made me co-host by any chance? I can't see gallery mode as an option.
I'm working on that right now. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Take your time. I will stall. But yeah, well, my name's Elan. I guess I would. Oh, cool. Sweet. All right, let me switch over to gallery so I can see some of you guys. All right, if any of you guys want to enable video, that's cool. It'll help me kind of catch your eye here. But yeah, my name's Elan. I'll go ahead and screen share real quick and just take over the slides from here like we planned. Let me see if I can pull that guy over. All right, let's do this one. Route it out. All right. Okay. All right. Well, you guys see my screensaver? That's embarrassing. So embarrassing. All right. So let's pop over and see if I can find these slides over here. So that's what I really need. Where did I just put those guys? All right, just 1 second, guys. I'm just trying to pull up the slides. There we go. I don't know why it didn't show before. Okay. So where'd we leave off? Let's see. All right. Cool. Okay. All right. All right, guys. I'm going to try and keep it casual. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do on time. I don't expect you guys to finish going through this entire pen test exercise today. I expect you guys, to be able to work on it later, and you can communicate with me later. So we're just going to get you guys introduced to the subject, to the material, and then just maybe go over some of it when we can. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But let me introduce myself. My name is Elan Rasabi. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. That'd be very cool. And if you DM me, I'll be happy to answer you. Basically, what's my history? I used to go to UF. I was president of SIT in 2017. Treasurer before that. I'm actually much more proud of the treasurer position. I'm OSCP certified since a little bit after graduating from UF. I started off as a software engineer at IBM X-Force, which was the last time I talked to you guys. That's what I was doing. I actually lost that job during COVID, just a couple months in, and ended up getting another job in something that I was kind of working on uh, while I was at IBM. Some of the skills I was building, which is I became a full stack developer and AWS admin for a startup in Atlanta, which I would not going to bother mentioning. But it's really cool. Really like the job, and I actually got hired just 7 days after getting let go from IBM. So I was technically still working at IBM when I got the other job. And I mention this because I think um, I want to go over this pen testing material too. But another thing I want to talk to you guys about, because I think a lot of you are curious, is about the transition from university to your first job, leaving your first job, and also dealing with getting hired in this COVID situation, and just some things that I picked up along the way that might be able to help you guys. So this isn't just talking about pen testing with Rick and Morty. In between, I'd love to hear questions from you, or try and answer any questions that you guys have um, on being a security professional or being a professional developer, or anything else really. We can keep it open ended. I like to consider myself a jack of all trades. I was never a master at UF or even after. I kind of my skills are kind of all around. I kind of went where my curiosity was, and I suggest you guys do the same, because that's kind of the only way you'll survive here. Just answer the questions you have for yourself and learn the skills that you need to get you there, and just kind of do that along the way. So that's kind of what I did. So I have a weirdly broad set of skills. I've touched a lot of stuff, and hopefully that can help you guys if you have any questions with that too. I've made a lot of mistakes, like at school since I've graduated too, that maybe you guys can learn from. So I'm all about helping you guys skip the gap and avoid unnecessary, uh, you know, experiences of making mistakes. Mistakes that you gain something from, that's good, but let's not waste our time with running around looking for something when someone else could just refer us to it, and there's nothing learned from that searching process. So that's what I'm all about. So now I'll jump into intro to pen testing. But does anyone have any questions before I get into that? I'll pause
Before
for a bit.
before you jump in, you're not actually sharing your slides right now. Uh,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
What
So if
what
you
do you guys see currently?
We just see the gallery view.
That's odd. All right, I'll go ahead and reshare. All right. How about now? What do you guys see?
perfect, we can see them now.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just run back to it to give you guys the coverage. Clicking over here. Boom. And there we go. That's where I was referring to. That was my just brief bio where I cover those topics. President of SIP, OSCP, started off at IBM X-Force, got let go during COVID. Now I'm a full stack dev, AWS admin at a startup in Atlanta still. I learned a little bit about everything, but not everything about one thing. And yeah, and my goal for this Pentesting with Rick and Morty lecture is that what we're going to basically do is we're going to give you guys access to the lab, because this club has always been about applying your skills and doing hands-on. But we're actually going to do a lab that we did back when I was president as well, and I'm I've created the most thorough walkthrough you could possibly have for this lab, and it caters to people who are absolute beginners to pen testing. I mean, you couldn't, like, if there was anything you might not have known, like, I didn't make any assumptions. So I try to explain things and walk you through and really have, in a conversational way, kind of rationalize the step-by-step process we go through. I will give you an introduction to the stages, but at the end of the day, I can't give a lecture and walk you through this at the perfect pace and touch on every topic that's important. So I resolved to basically write a document. It's 25 pages, mostly pictures, don't freak out. But the whole point was to be so thorough that you would ideally have no questions, even if you were a very, very beginner, and walk you through that process. So what we're going to end up doing there is I'm going to try and get you guys access to the labs, organize you guys in that sense, make sure you guys have access to the walkthrough document, and you guys give you a brief intro to the doc, and basically have you guys follow the doc on your own during this lecture. while people can ask me questions if they get stuck on the doc, questions about certain subjects, about the process, and then also any other questions they want about the field and about the space as we go through. So I'm there kind of ad hoc if you need me, and we can talk in between. We can talk about anything. So let's just hop right into it. I guess I'll stop. Does anybody have any questions before we go into it? Okie doke. All right, cool. So I might not be looking at the chat too much, but if you guys want to drop it into the chat, Claire or another officer will be moderating, and they can just stop me and ask any questions that you guys have. If you don't feel like stopping, me having this conversation, to ask your question, first of all, don't feel that way because that's kind of why I want to be here. Anybody could introduce pen testing. But also you can just drop it in the chat and then someone else can ask if they think it's a valid question. Okay, so intro to pen testing. This was made by Claire, by the way. Thank you, Claire. So if it sounds like I'm reading it for the second time, it's because I am. All right, so first of all, what is penetration testing, or otherwise known as ethical hacking? Penetration testing is a security subfield. It involves identifying and exploiting weaknesses and vulnerabilities of a given system, okay, like in an ethical fashion. What that means basically is penetration testing is breaking into something to show where it's vulnerable. So the ethics in it come from the fact that we're not exploiting them, we're not taking advantage of them at the end of the day. We're simply knocking on all the doors and trying to see what gives out, what's weak, and what could be taken advantage of by bad guys. So it actually makes a lot of sense when it's explained to you in that way. What's the best way to protect yourself from hackers? Well, hire good hackers to try and hack into you and then let you know how they got in and what they did. And that way you can protect yourself going forward. It's an oversimplification, but that is in a lot of ways what it is. Real penetration testing requires a formal contract. So a client will contract you to work for them. And in that contract, will have very explicitly defined constraints of what you can do, how much time you have, what type of penetration you can do. Sometimes they give you all of the information. Sometimes they give you a couple IP addresses and tell you to figure it out. But at the end of the day, the constraints are agreed upon, and you're not penetration testing a product or a client's resources that you don't have permission to. There are open sites and open like public resources for hacking things that you don't explicitly need permission and contract. But in penetration testing as a profession, that's pretty much what you're going to do. So essentially, you're a paid hacker. So what's the difference between penetration testing and vulnerability assessment? I think a good way of looking at it is vulnerability assessment is within the scope of penetration testing, but I guess penetration testing covers a lot more than that. Vulnerability assessments is more like you're looking to find vulnerabilities. You're enumerating, you're scanning, you're taking apart maybe your client's resources, but you don't take it to that next stage where you actually exploit it, where you maybe if you're hacking, let's say, a bank and you get access to client information, right? That would be a step past vulnerability assessment. You wouldn't go and actually harvest those credentials to show that how far you could get and what sensitive information you can gather. You're more doing research on what vulnerabilities are available. And I may be wrong about this, but my thinking of vulnerability assessment is a lot to do with finding new vulnerabilities or vulnerabilities in commercially available products. So if you're doing vulnerability research, you're doing exactly that. You're doing research. You're discovering new things, or you're discovering things that are in some way original. So yeah, both of them are good good professions, I guess. But we're going to cover penetration testing.
Elon.
Yeah, what's up?
Can a vulnerability researcher and a penetration tester be one and the same as far as a corporate job goes, or are those two pretty distinct as far as what they're hired for?
Right. So I would say that even a penetration tester can be a lot of different things, and same with a vulnerability researcher. It doesn't usually work like this in the sense that if you get hired as a penetration tester, you are going to be penetration testing everything. You're going to be penetration testing Linux.
Hang on a second.
Yep. Yeah. So there's a lot of stages when you're an ethical hacker, and in the profession, in the white hat profession, you'll have a lot of different roles on the team, because to really be effective, you guys have to have everybody has to be good, especially good at a given thing. So for example, you can't just, I mean, of course there are exceptions, but in general, it's very difficult to be an amazing web application hacker, and then when you have to do privilege escalation or hack the things on like something like Windows Server, like you're also an expert at Windows operating system usually. So they'll split you guys up in a lot of different fields. So it's very likely even within vulnerability assessment, you get split up as well. But you can have someone who's better at doing the vulnerability assessments on the penetration testing team, who also does other work or just that. So even penetration testing in itself, it splits into a lot of different stuff. And within penetration testing teams, the professional ones will usually customize their own hacking tools, for reasons we can explain later if you guys want. And there's a whole separate team within that usually that's just making the tools, because just because you're a great penetration tester doesn't mean you're a great programmer. And that's something we'll talk about later too. But that was a good question. Does anybody else have any questions? I know it's kind of early on. What's up, Ambrose? All right, cool. Okay, and again, my walkthrough doc will explain a little bit about this as well, but this is really important. Okay, so this is something I might need Claire's help with. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make these labs available to you. So if you were on your own and you wanted to practice hacking, what we could do is we could have you install a virtualization software. A lot of you probably don't know about it, but basically what it lets you do is it lets you simulate or an operating system running just on your laptop or running on wherever you have that software installed. That way, if you've got a Mac and you want to hack Windows computers, you can just download a Windows virtual machine, and you can go ahead and install that in your virtualization software, and then basically you can either communicate it with it from your Mac or from your attack machine, or communicate with it directly. It's people use it for a lot of different things, not just hacking, but it's a great use for it. The only downside is that it takes a lot of time to download the vulnerable operating system, right? The vulnerable target machine, the thing you're going to hack. It also takes a lot of time to get the software installed and set up, which you should definitely do when you're in the club. I mean, that's what we show you how to do it, but we don't expect you to have it ready coming into the meeting. And also, you guys have different laptops. You can have different bugs along the way. It would be impossible to get all of you guys set up before getting started. So what we do is we just end up spinning up the vulnerable machines for you in these pods, and also we give you available an attack, like a hacking computer, Kali Linux, to allow you to use to hack those vulnerable machines. And all you have to do is basically remote into those machines, which we set up in these pods, so that you can start hacking right away. That way, the environment's totally set up and controlled and prepared for you. That being said, if you want to practice at home, you can still use these labs, but you can also get your local environment set up, and we can provide that for you as well. And if you get serious about ethical hacking, about penetration testing going forward, that's very likely what you're going to have to do. I'll let the red team guys talk much more about that if you're interested in detail, but basically we set this up for you, and we just have to get you access to it. Okay, and this is what we want you to do. I don't know if they have access to the slides, but we're going to need you to go to a site called
I can post the
NDG.
slides. The password is no longer SIT is great, so if you don't mind editing that on your copy of the slides, and just changing it to I love InfoSec in all lowercase.
Actually, it might still be SIT is great, because I love InfoSec
It's not. I just got a pod. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Because I was just in a pod where I had to use SIT is great, but okay.
Well, SIT is great is the password for the Kali VM, but the password for the actual account to get into NDG is I love InfoSec.
Okay. All right. And also, by the way, so the good news is that we have 81 pods available for you guys, says Wilson. So there should be enough for everybody, which is great because you guys can't pair up. So what we just need to figure out is how everybody is going to get their individual username to have access to their own pod. How do you suggest we do that, Claire?
Can everyone who needs an NDG pod, so like anyone who doesn't have this particular virtual machine, the ridiculously easy virtual machine already set up, can you please raise your hand with the Zoom emoji? Like, so if you go into the participant list, you can raise your hand next to it. And then I'm going to go around and assign each person a pod.
Yep.
And then
she'll pass over your creds, and I'll walk through the login for you guys while she does that. Does that sound good, Claire?
yeah, just 1 minute. It's someone's having issues even connecting to the site. So let me try that out.
This is a different system for anybody who did red team earlier this week. This is a different system than that. So the two are not identical.
Okay. Nobody take sit A1 as the user. I know there are a couple pranksters out there. Don't do it. All right. Looking at you, Ambrose. All right. I'm going to log out of it just to pop back in. I'm going to test this new password and see, make sure that's good. But let's see. Okay. All right. You're right. They did change it. All right. So once you do get to ndg.cic.ufl.edu, you'll be prompted with a login. Claire will go ahead and give you the credentials. And the credential was, I think, I love what? UFSIT or something?
I love InfoSec.
InfoSec. All right. I love InfoSec. And they'll probably prompt you to change password. Oops. All right. Let me try that again. Mine might be the only one that's not different. Okay. So I love InfoSec does not work for me.
You can do this on a regular browser. So when you're navigating to ndg.cic.ufl.edu, basically you're just logging into a virtual environment that we already have set up. So you can do it on any OS, any machine, because you're not actually using your host machine's tools. You're using all of our virtualized environment tools.
Yeah.
So
it would be just like logging into your UFL or logging into your email, because you just need a browser and the rest is done for you, generally.
Hey Claire.
Let me.
Um,
I know what it is.
it looks like the password. I wasn't able to get in with the I love InfoSec. If you do, SID is great. It asks you to reset the password.
Okay, so there must be some pods that are old and some that are new. If you get the
Gotcha.
message that like to reset the password, can you just reset it to I love InfoSec?
Sounds good.
So yeah, for anyone who can't sign in with the password I love InfoSec, try sit is great. Both of those are all lowercase. And then if you get a message about changing the password, just change it to I love InfoSec. And then, sorry, I'm just manually going one by one and assigning you.
Yeah, there's really no other way to do it.
Yeah, I'm just going down my list. So
Normally we would organize it by what table you're sitting at, and so we don't have that option right now.
Claire, this is Joe Wilson.
Hi, Dr. Wilson. How are you?
If you want me to reset all those passwords to I love InfoSec, I'll reset them right now.
I think it's working fine. I mean, I just reset mine and I changed my password and I got access to mine now, so I'm okay.
Okay.
I think we should be fine because it seems like we can just reset them easily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And once you guys do get logged in, you can go ahead and take your hand down from your user so that we can know that you're all good.
And please let me know if you're still having issues connecting to the site.
Most common problem is people not connecting to HTTPS if they're using a browser that doesn't enforce HTTPS everywhere.
So Wilson, you said right now we can run nmap scans without having to sudo?
You can do that. They will be connect scans rather than half open.
All right, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have them quick swap over to root anyway, just in case.
Most, I think that the DHCP is probably going to associate host 13 with the Rick and Morty VM, but it may vary.
Right. Nope. Yeah. No
Because
problem.
everybody's got a different DHCP running, and there's no telling.
Okie doke. All right. So does anybody who still has their hand up need help, or just are you guys just waiting for user assignments?
It says I don't have a scheduled lab reservation. Should I like create one or?
Yeah, we'll walk you through creating the lab after
Yep.
everyone gets assigned.
Okay.
But yeah, you're right on the right track.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else need pods assigned? I see several people in the chat who didn't have their hands raised, but I'm not sure if you guys need a pod. Okay. Nicholas, I think I assigned you one already. I think you're SIT B7. And that was Nicholas Reno. We have a couple duplicate names, so I probably should have put their last initial, but Owen, I think I assigned you one too. Yep. Owen, you're SIT B8. So you may have to scroll up in the chat to see what I assigned you.
So for the future, if I get a list of everybody who's active in the organization, I can add their username and if they don't have an account already, and assign them to the SIT class.
All right.
Oh,
Looks like we almost got everybody. Ambrose, what's up with you?
Owen, you're right. I actually sent that in a different message. So there's the assignments that you needed. Are there anyone else who needs assignments?
Yeah.
Yes.
We got people who still got their hand up.
Yeah, we have some. Matthew, I think you already have an assignment. I'm just double checking to make sure there's another Matthew. Yeah, Matthew, yours is SIT A7.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I just saw your hand, so like your hand emoji was still raised, so I thought you were still waiting on an assignment. Let's see. Jessica, Jonathan, Joseph, do any of you guys need pods? I'm going to assume if you don't have your hand raised and you're not saying anything, you have a local setup.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Looks like every hand is down. So I think we can go. Do you want me to walk them through lab reservation?
Yep, that'd be wonderful.
Okay. All right. So you guys can see my screen okay? Let me go ahead and hide that. It's none of your business. All right. New lab reservation is what you guys are going to want to click on. Schedule lab for myself. Okay. And then it's going to show you the list of labs available by name. Rick and Morty is the basically this hackable machine that we have over here has a lot of Rick and Morty themes on it. Either the website is a Rick and Morty website or all these stuff, just to kind of make it a little bit more fun. We're always trying to relate to these young kids, you know. So go ahead and click on that lab, and essentially what you're doing is you're just reserving time to be able to spin up a virtual pod for you, a virtual machine for you. So you're just reserving the time you're going to be on and the time you're going to be off. So then once you get on there, these times for 6 p.m. are already reserved. So you're going to have to go right until you find an open time, like right over here. And here's the annoying part. It might not show you the lab is available to start unless you click it right after that red line, which is the current time. Make sure you click right after that red line. And then when you do that, you can reserve I mean, if it's okay with Wilson, you can kind of reserve as much time as you want. So if you really want to finish this for the first time and you haven't done it before, especially if you're brand new, probably going to need like 4 to 6 hours max to get it done if you're taking your time going through the docs and really trying to do it right. So you got your start time, and then you pick your end time, and you could pick like something 4 hours later, like, I don't know, 10 p.m. or something, and then you can see 3 hours, 30 minutes, click submit. I'm not going to click submit because I already have a lab open. I'm going to click cancel. But if you did it right, you'll see this button that says enter lab. You'll probably have the reservation, but you may not see the button. If you don't see the button, you didn't click close enough to that red line. Okay, if anybody doesn't see that button, I mean, you could go ahead and raise your hand, but I'll probably just do it again. Actually, go ahead and raise your hand if you do have the enter lab button, so we know you're good to go. All right, cool. All right. And you can always reserve more time later. So, just remember your password if you did change it, and you should be fine. Oh, what the heck? Did I just get bumped off? Let's see.
Yeah, the reason why we assign each person their own, like SIT A1 or SIT A2 username is because only one person can be logged in at a time and then actively using the virtual machines. So we want to avoid conflicts as much as possible. So please only use the one you're assigned until this meeting's over, and then you can use whichever one is available. But for now, please just use the one you're assigned, or one of the ones that didn't get assigned. So any SIT, like G1 through 9, feel free to use those. Those were not assigned. You're not going to run into conflicts. But try and use the one you were assigned.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely keep that going. Claire, how are you sharing the walkthrough document to them? I just want to make sure everybody has that.
I'm going to share it in the Slack
Actually,
and the Discord.
Elon, if you go into your lab, I can show you where it is.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you were
enter
able
your
to do
lab.
that?
Yeah, go ahead and enter your lab.
Okay.
And up in the left, after you should see content.
Content, yes.
Content.
Perfect. Okay.
Right there.
Good.
You can also, if you click content again, you can open that
Undock
in a new
Cool.
window if you want.
So you guys see
And
that?
you'll see it. Yeah.
I'll actually keep doing it that way then, instead of keeping the doc separately.
Yeah, you can keep it up in that extra window. Yep.
Can I like get rid of this guy? He's so annoying. How can I get rid of this top dashboard part?
It's a mystery.
Just, yeah, there we go. Lesson learned. Problem solves itself. Just don't ever try and solve a problem. It'll solve itself. Okay. All right. Again, so hands up if you have gotten access and or are good where you are. Put that guy up. All right. Alex, Owen. All right. Hand up. All right.
If anyone needs help,
Sean, you good?
Shout it out or write in the Zoom group chat and we will help you.
All right. Okay. All right. I guess everybody who has their hand up, you can go ahead and take that down. And anybody who actively has a problem and needs help, just put your hand up. If not, we'll be good to kind of go forward. All right. Yeah, I can't tell if they needed to toggle it or not, but Joe, you're good. Gabriel, are you okay? Gabriella, sorry. All right.
Oh yeah, I'm
Eugene,
good, thank you.
No problem, no problem. Eugene, all good? Cool. I'm just scaring people into putting their hands down. All right. Okay, so let's just hop forward. So from there, you just start your lab. You should get where we were. Like we said, content has any awesome resources that you might be able to need for your VM. Once you guys get the system down, if you guys don't end up setting up anything local, any VirtualBox or any virtual machine software, this is how we're going to do it every time. So So that's good. And you can go ahead now and hop over to the hacking operating system, which is a flavor distribution of this. Is it distro or is it a flavor of Linux, Kali? And basically, don't overthink it. There's a lot of different versions of Linux, and some of them just have some tools already installed on it. Some of them are more bare bones. Kali is an operating system that has installed all of these tools that are built around penetration testing, ethical hacking. So not that if you install Ubuntu or Debian or anything like that, you can still get all of these tools generally, but Kali already has them ready for you, so you don't have to go ahead and install them, every single one that you need as they go. It generally has all of the boilerplate, hacking command line tools and applications that you might need. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on Kali. And over here, you'll see it prompts you for the login to your Kali operating system, and the username is Kali, and the password is, I think it's I love SIT. What is it again, Wilson?
SIT is great.
SIT is great. Lots of good things about SIT. All right, and you guys can just go ahead and log in right there. Okay, and you can select to undock this guy, which just so you can use it in like a more full screen. And of course, it may have a little bit of bugginess at times, because it's a complex process, but just be patient with it. And it might get slow a bit at times because everybody's using the resources at the same time. But generally, it works very, very well, thanks to Wilson. And from here, honestly, you can just go forward with what's in the documentation. So I'm going to swing over to the documentation or the walkthrough that I wrote, because I wanted you to be able to work on this at home. I didn't want you to be able to need me or need anyone else in the club to do this. So everything from just opening up the terminal is kind of introduced to you in this walkthrough. So any beginners who are a little bit nervous about this process or wary, this whole exercise, this whole document was built for you. It wasn't built for John. No one likes John. It's built for you guys. So if you have any questions, let me know. And if you also think there's any problems with the document, like it could be more specific, or it misses certain parts, let me know too, and we'll edit that. Because it's more than just you are using this, and ideally you wouldn't even need me to use it. Okay, so now you've got this operating system, and think about it like as if this is just the operating system you booted into and it's on your computer. That's how it's working. This is your attack machine, so it's the machine that you're hacking from. The machine that you will hack is your target machine. And I would tell you how you find that target machine, but the document literally starts off with that too. So let's bounce right over to that guy. In fact, pull that guy over here. Okay, and this is the beginning of the document. Now, does anybody not know how to get access to the document or can't see the document? Okie doke, raise your hand if you do. If you have any problems or any questions at all right now before we get started. Okie doke. Just for my own edification, raise your hand if you've never used Kali before. Okay. All right. And raise your hand if you feel like Wilson. All right. Raise your hand if you feel like your terminal skills, using commands in the terminal, are beginner level. It's not a problem if it is. Okay. Gabriella, thank you. Thank you, guys. I'm not going to target you guys, but I'm here. I'm going to be looking for you guys, and if you guys have any problems, you are the guys I'm catering to. So I'll try and be as conversational as possible, and that's what I did in this document. We're going to try not to be overly technical. Only use terminology that we have to. And if there is terminology that you may not know, I've highlighted it and I've added descriptions to it. So even when it comes to attack machine, you see that's highlighted in green? That's because you may not know it. So it's just more terminology that I might feel like I have to clarify, or keywords to kind of remember. So attack machine, also known as Kali Linux. Another word for a machine is a computer or an operating system or a box. That's the common words we use for it. So don't overthink it. And it starts off by just introducing you into what the 5 stages of pen testing are and what pen testing, the process really looks like. And I'll walk you into this part. So essentially, we've got our attack machine, our Kali Linux, and it's able to communicate with the target machine, so the hackable machine. So we can reach it one way or another, either over the internet, or we can ping it. We can reach it locally. You know, all these different ways. But the bottom line is we can at least communicate with it. If we can communicate it with it, we can penetration test it. The target machine is running a flavor of Linux called Fedora. Not super important, so we'll just skip past that. It really doesn't matter what flavor it is. And our job is simple: find the target machine on the network and get any and all information we can on it. So this is the overall goal with penetration testing. A good phrase people use is called getting root, getting administrator privileges. Because if you want to hack a computer, what is your God? What is the hardest thing you can do? The answer is anything, right? So by becoming administrator or super user or root, these are all the same words. What you're basically doing is you're getting the privilege to be able to do anything you want on that computer. So if you're a Windows user and you want to run a program and it says this programmer requires administrator privileges, and then you just click yes and then it runs, you're normally a regular user, and then you're executing that command or executing that action as a super user or administrator. So in Windows, it's called administrator. In Linux, it's called root. And also in Mac, it's called root. But that just means administrator. And if you can, and basically what's the difference? The difference is privilege. As an administrator, you're given privileges to do all things, right? As a user, you're given limited privileges. What they are, it depends on the user, right? Whether or not you can read files or write files or execute programs. These are types of privileges that you would have based on what user you are. Yeah, so what we want to do is we want to gain access to the computer as a user, as some user, likely, and then escalate that till you have root or administrator privileges. Okay, so that's your God. And I've also added a lot of things to incentivize a little bit more than just getting root. So when you hack computers as practice, likely the target will be to get root. But I feel that sometimes getting root is the end goal, but you learn, there's so much more to learn than just getting root, and there's so many different ways to do it. And I wanted to incentivize kind of the right way of doing things. So what I did was I added flags at different milestones into hacking the vulnerable machine, which I hope are still there if we're using the original Rick and Morty. And those flags have different keys and kind of like you would at a CTF, if you guys are familiar with it, to reward you for getting to a certain checkpoint or let you know that you're on the right track. Or reward maybe like a side mission. If you've ever played a video game and there's stuff you can do like on the side, it's not really part of the campaign. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, so you'll be hacking at this machine. This hacking will be done in several stages, and there may be like a flag, which is essentially a file, which will have some key, some sequence of numbers and letters to show you that you've gotten somewhere. Okay, so we want to get on our attack machine, our Kali box. We want to try and first find and then break into this vulnerable machine. And we do it using the 5 phases of penetration testing or ethical hacking. And try and think about this like you would think about breaking into a physical thing, like a bank, because that's the best way to think about penetration testing. And the stages are very much the same. So for example, the first stage, reconnaissance, okay? If you want to do hacking right, if you want to hack a target, what's the first thing you should probably do is recon that target. Who is my target? If it's a bank, who works at the bank? Where is the bank located? What's the bank name? Who owns it? Have they been hacked in the past? What's their history? What are the possible attack vectors? Which basically just means different opportunities and options you can use to gain access or get what you want when you're hacking a machine, right? So if you were a bank robber, you'd case the bank, right? You'd see the comings and goings of the employees. You'd see who the manager was cheating on his wife with. These kinds of things. That's all recon. And that is used in ethical hacking, just like it's used in breaking into a bank. We don't have recon exactly as a good example inside of hacking this because it's a virtual machine that's a vulnerable target. It doesn't have employees. It doesn't have history that you can grab from. It doesn't have a company it's associated with. But if I could pick one example from hacking this machine, it would be watching the TV series Rick and Morty. Because if this is a themed machine like Rick and Morty, and you're doing you're a penetration testing attack, like trying passwords to access something that you don't know the password to, which is something we're going to do. Maybe if it's a Rick and Morty, then the password will be something related to the show Rick and Morty. You know, oh my God, I'm trying to think of a reference now, but you know, like, like a quote from Rick and Morty, it might be, or like, you know, yeah, something like that, or an episode name or something. You know, that, because that's how people make passwords in real life. They often use things that are very close to them, like a birthday or a team that they like. So the more you know about that person, the more likely you are to be able to do things like guess the password, or you know, programmatically guess the password by letting a program do it, which we can talk about in a bit. So that's what recon is. What you will start with now is scanning. And scanning is basically, you know that you can reach the target. So we're going to now communicate with the target in a way that helps us identify more about the machine. So what do we know about it? You know it runs Fedora Linux because you cheated, because I told you, okay? But otherwise, it would just be an IP address to you. You don't know anything about it. So there's so much more for you to know. For example, what operating system is it running? What services might be running on it? Uh, let's see. What kind of vulnerabilities might be associated with those services? What service versions they are? What operating system version is it? You know, because if it's out of date, then maybe it's vulnerable to something, you know, has a known vulnerability that you can exploit. So the process of scanning is our process of essentially talking to this target. You know, it could be stealthily or it can be overtly. In this case, there's nobody defending it, so we can be as overt as we want, and I encourage you to, and to try and gain information on it. And that's what scanning is going to be doing. The first step in scanning for us now will be to find the target. So you don't even know the IP address of the target intentionally, and I'll show you how to do a scan to first find that target and then move forward from there. The next stage is gaining access. Okay, so normally when you're hacking something, or you're hacking a network, you're hacking a company, or you're hacking a target, chances are you're not going to get administrative privileges in the first time you gain access to the machine. Okay, chances are you're going to exploit some vulnerability, or you're going to leverage some misconfiguration and basically get access to that computer as a low privilege, low level user. You know, and if that user is really restricted, you won't be able to do even the most basic of things, like transfer files back to yourself, or even read files. It depends on what it is. And then, so gaining access is not getting root, and that's very important to understand. But it's a very, very big step after scanning and enumeration, which is, you know, to me, it's, Wilson, chip in if you want. But for me, I look at enumeration as louder scanning that's more active and interactive. You can go a step further with enumeration that maybe you wouldn't be comfortable with scanning, or legally allowed to scanning, or other restrictions, you know, that would keep you from doing that. You know, so it could be even things like testing to see if an exploit would land on a vulnerability, not actually exploiting it, but testing it. So yeah, sorry, back to getting access. So if you gain access, you'll likely gain access as an underprivileged user, and then from there you're on the target, you're on the computer. And what that'll likely look like over here is you're going to open up a terminal on your attack machine, right? Well, once you've gained access on that other machine, it'll be like you have a terminal, but it's on that machine that you've attacked. You're interacting now directly on that machine, on that target. Okay, after that, you have maintaining access. And I promise you, we're going to step through this really slowly. But I'm just breaking down the stages for you. Maintaining access. Now, this is another thing you don't have to worry about. But a lot of people think you hack into a computer, you hack into the matrix, and there you go. You're in like Schwinn, and that's great. Well, in real life, I can tell you from experience, professional hackers, people who actually do this, bad or good, for a living, likely gaining access, or when they hack something, they're not planning on doing something just then and there. What they likely are going to do is they're going to set up a way to connect back and get back into, or backdoor maybe, that system, so that when they want to do something, when they want to do any malicious activity or execute their game plan, they can do that down the road, and they still have that ability. Likely when you gain access, you're leveraging an exploit or you're leveraging a misconfiguration. You get access to the session, but if that person turns that computer off, you're bumped off. And if they patch the system, you very likely might not be able to get back in again. Patching means like fixing a security vulnerability or patch, yeah, like fixing an issue or a bug in the system or service, right? So when you gain access, you don't want to take that for granted. You want to try and set up a way so that you can always get back into that machine. And that might be just adding something yourself to that operating system that'll allow you to get back into it, like a backdoor. So you won't have that tested here because no one's going to be kicking you out. No one's going to be turning off the machine. No one's going to be changing the operating system in any way. But I challenge the guys who are more veteran over here to be practicing these stages on this machine. For example, setting up a backdoor and then blocking out all of those services or whatever vulnerability you got in it initially and making sure that you can get back in. I challenge you to do that if you want to do that. Okay, so maintaining access. So that's also important, but you don't have to worry about it too much. Covering your tracks, also you don't have to worry about. Okay, when you hack a machine, you leave a lot of digital fingerprints. You leave a lot of evidence around that you did that in logs, in session activity, in volatile memory. There's a lot of ways that you can be it can be traced back to you. And as a professional hacker, good or bad, you want to stay anonymous, right? You don't want people to be able to use your activity against you. And if you guys are interested, by the way, the work I did at IBM was talking a lot about to higher up executives about how bad actors work, and how to handle both the PR and also the technical problems that will show up that are time sensitive. And another thing is also understanding how, like, what the, I guess you could call it the cyber kill chain, but really what what a 9 to 5 bad actor, evil hacker is motivated by doing, and how they operate, and how that happens end to end, and also how they're caught. Obviously it varies, but that's part of my work. So if you are interested in understanding more about how that works, we can talk about it. So covering your tracks will also help you with this problem. I talk to a lot of guys in forensics at X4 Security who track down or pick up these fingerprints and ID these APTs, advanced persistent threats, basically organized crime, not more than organized crime group, government organized crime groups. And they say like the guy I spoke to had never seen a case where he couldn't go really far as identification. Even if it's a high level APT, they leave a lot of stuff behind and they make a lot of mistakes. Okay. And yeah, so that's what covering your tracks is about. So without further ado, I got a little bit more of an explanation down here, but you don't need to worry too much about that. Let's just go ahead and get you guys basically started. And then from there, I expect you guys to kind of take it on your own and read the doc and go through the steps. Take it at your own pace. Don't feel pressure. Just know that if you have any questions during or after, you can hit me up. And chances are, if you're struggling with it, other people are struggling with it. At the very least, it means the document is not thorough enough. Okay? So going first into part 1, recon. Okay? I explained what the example of recon would be, so you can skip past that. And then here comes the logical part where I say, okay, our first example of recon is we need to know what our target's IP address is. Well, we don't even know our own IP address, right? So I'll scroll down over here to recon. That's where we're at. Basically what I'm saying here, we have our attack machine and we're on the local network, right? So all that means is like, you're not using the internet. The network is accessible without having to go through the internet. So all the devices in your home network, that's your local network at home, under your Wi-Fi router, right? So we're on our local network and the other machine is on our local network. All right, so that likely means that we can communicate with it. In this case, we can maybe ping it. And I use this example because all of you guys have likely used ping. You ping an IP address and it works. Okay, so I wanted to use something you are more familiar with to get you started. And a good way of finding our machine would be to ping all the possible IP addresses in our local network and then find out which ones respond to us. And that could be our target machine. So the first thing we need to do is find our IP address, and we can do that using ifconfig, which is a network tool, which will show us various things. So let's go ahead and try that. All right, and this was SIT is great, right? No, what was it again? I'm sorry, Wilson. Oh, cool. That was it. All right, so let's go ahead and pop open our terminal. We give you a nicer terminal called Terminator. Just allows you to do things like window splitting. So Control E. Oh, sorry. That happens with that Mac problem. All right. Let's see. Go to Preferences. Okay. Hold on. All right. Does anybody know how to pass? Is it Control E? Because I don't know if the keyboard will make it hard to pass it over to split windows and things like that. We don't necessarily need to use it, but it could be helpful. Is anybody getting that split? Okay. If not, no worries. Okay. But basically what I explain over here is we open up our terminal, and stop me guys if anybody gets stuck. I see someone has their hand raised. Russell, do you have a question, or was that from before? Russell? Okay. All right, and we'll go ahead and type that command that I have in top, that I keep showing you screenshots of, ifconfig. All right, so I guess ifconfig is not found. So I guess Wilson, it wasn't in, is Wilson still here? All right, no, he's not. Okay, so I wanted to show you ifconfig, but I guess NetTools didn't get installed. So you can also type ip-adder show. All right. This command will show you your IP address information. Now you have multiple IP addresses. I wouldn't worry about that too much for now. I don't want to get you confused, but you do have an outside facing IP address that outside devices can reach you from. And that is this one over here, 172.24.0.10. Okay. These are different interfaces that you have. And 127.0.0.1, that's your local IP address. So you know that that's not going to be like, that's not your public, I guess, external IP address. It's going to be this one. So I'll go ahead and copy that. And you can go ahead and paste that guy back in every time you need to use it. You really don't need to use it. It was just really to show you the IP address that you have and also the subnet mask, which tells you all the possible IP addresses that you can have in range. Again, I will let you guys go through the document and work on this. I can't explain it better than this document can because I put everything into this document and thinking very deeply about it. But essentially, if I wanted to go ahead and, let's see if I can paste this. All right, cool. Let's do this. Just gonna copy it. And you pinged anything before. I know I might be starting at a very early point, which is not cool, but we better to start from the ground for you guys, okay? And ping that. See, you just ping yourself, okay? Now thinking about communication and pinging and scanning and things like that, it's like sending mail via the postage, right? If you want to send a letter to your grandma, you need to know what her address is. Same thing with the internet. If you want to send, a packet, or you want to send it, if you want to ping something, you need to know its address, right? So here we showed we can ping ourselves. We're sending mail to ourselves, which sounds kind of dumb, but it's a good place to start, all right? But we know that the net mask range is 24, which just means that you have 255 possible options, and it can be anything from 172.24.0.1 to 172.24.0.255, right? So if we do a ping that pings everything in that range, then we can likely find our target. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And again, all of this is in the doc. I'm being a bit redundant here. I think, it might not be. Okay, so go ahead and do, well, I guess we can't do ping sweep. We'll do Nmap, which is our go-to scanning tool. This is the best scanning tool out there. It's universally recognized as just like a fantastic and robust scanning tool. You'll type in the command Nmap, and I believe it's dash S, is it dash S capital P? Let's see. It isn't. It is, hold on. Ifconfig, yeah, okay. Okay, actually you can just put in the full range. I mean, you don't even have to do that. So let's go ahead and paste in the IP address we want. Okay, and then do the range. I believe that should be fine. Okay, now we're just trying to basically do a ping or do a scan. SP I think would be a scan. So let's just do that. This is passing the flag SP. Okay. We'll go ahead and run that guy. And this is the very first scan you'll ever do. Whereas you're scanning your local network, you know, to find out who's up, who's answering ping requests right now. All right. And again, bear with me if it takes time, but see, you got the results. The results say that several hosts are up. This host is up, this host is up, and this host is up. Okay. So this host, well, I'll start with this one. This one's us, right? So we know it's not that one. And this one is at the beginning of the subnet, right? And typically the host at the beginning of the subnet is the default gateway. It's basically if your device doesn't know where to communicate, it can't find that address, it'll send it to the default gateway, which is likely your router, it's this or the switch or something above you that may know where it is. It's like your default authority. So when you search things on the internet, it'll go through your default gateway, you know, or go to your router, and then your router may know how to reach that thing outside of the internet, and then it'll send it out from there. But you on the local network, you don't know, you know, where these things are. You have to redirect. So so it's very likely this guy over here, 172.24.0.13, and that is how we found the IP of our target machine. And the fun really kind of starts from there. But I wanted to get you guys started with something you were familiar with. So now if you guys want, you can go ahead and open up that document and read it again at your own pace from wherever you guys want to start. We've gotten you just past shoot, it's skipping badly. We got you basically just past the first page. And also, I guess, past the second page where you did the sweep. So you're at number 2, which I labeled scanning. 2.1, scanning for the operating system. So now using this Nmap tool, basically you can scan for a lot of things. You can find out the operating system. You can find out what ports might be running. You can find out what services are running. Again, all of it gets explained. By doing that, you're doing your recon, you're doing your scanning, and you're finding out more about your target. And then the next stage from there will likely be to now use that research that you did in your target to find out where it might be vulnerable. So I'm going to let you guys take over at your own pace from here. Just know that I want you to do one more thing that isn't on this sheet, which is to become your own administrator, because the new Kali might prohibit you from doing certain scans and certain things unless you have administrator level privileges. So just run everything from root, which you should not do generally, because of course it's more dangerous that you're running as an administrator, but over here it's fine. So just type in sudo su and then put in your password. SID is great. Basically you're just swapping yourself over. All right, and it should say root at the start of your username. And now from there you can type in and write any kind of scans that you like. Okay, now again, a lot of your questions should be answered in the doc going forward, but does anybody have any questions about what I've covered so far? Okay, all right, cool. So what I'm going to do now is just like let you guys, since you have lab access, go through the doc, pace yourself, go at any time, and we can talk about literally anything else that you guys want to talk about at all, not even related to pen testing. If you guys have any questions about my career so far, about being a professional, about development, about penetration testing, about anything, we can go ahead and talk about that. And if anybody has any questions about the document or they're stuck somewhere, just go ahead and raise your hand on using the raise hand icon, and we'll stop that conversation and get back to you and take care of your stuff. Does that sound good? Does that not sound good to anybody?
Psst, check the chat.
Okay, where's my moderator? He's checking the chat for me. All right, let me pop open the chat then. Okay, I will switch away from screen because you probably, want to see my beautiful face, and also that helps me look at the chat. Okay, let's see where that at. All right, cool. All right, that's a lot to keep up with, 65 messages. Okay, does anybody, let's see. Okay, so Ambrose, thank you for the clarifications. Yeah, you don't have to know everything today, guys, which is why we might be skipping some of this context. Like you don't necessarily need to know about loopback interface and stuff like that. So I really want to focus on the subject at hand so that you're not overwhelmed, and really kind of hammer those home. It's important that you have those good fundamentals, because if you're just plugging in the work, especially with pen testing, it's just not going to pan out for you when you get a new problem. Every time you hack something, even if it's the same service or the same whatever, it's going to be done differently, likely, because there's always different details. You know, there's so much to a single environment. So it's important that you guys do it your own way, and feel like if you want to play around with it and take more time with certain things, do that too, because walkthroughs are helpful, but they're not going to get you to that high level, because at the end of the day, you're going to need to have that improvisational skills that come from experience and come from true fundamental understanding. Okie doke. All right. Only one in Ethernet is 172.24.0.10. Not quite sure what that means, but did anybody see any questions or want to copy paste any questions that they saw that were good from before or just valid? Okay, so what do you do with 172.24.0.10? Okay, that's your IP address, but the reason why I gave you that was because how could we do the ping sweep, which is just a range scan with ping? How could we do that if we didn't know what IP address and subnet we had, right? So a good first way to do that would be to get your own IP address, right? Once you get your own IP address and you get the subnet there, you know the range of possible IPs on your local network. No problem, Sean. You've got the document. You can access this anytime, including the labs. We're not shutting any of this stuff down. So again, no need to stick around. Really, you can take it from here if you want and totally sign off. This is just more for questions, or if you just want me while you have me here, you can go for it. Yeah. But I was just trying to make a logical step. So ask yourself logical questions. Okay, you want to interact with a target. Well, where is the target? I don't know. So what we know that it's on the local network, right? And if you pick your target, you'll know if it's over the internet or on the local network. So that's a given. All right. So okay, so we know that's on the local network. So what is our local network? Okay, how are we going to find our local network? Well, we can start with finding out what our IP address is, because local networks assign IPs in a range in a very logical fashion. And if you can find out what that is, you can find out all the possible IP addresses it could be. So you're asking yourself common sense questions. How do I find you? And you're using the skills that you'll acquire here and maybe common knowledge to get yourself there. And just start there and go to that next stage. If you feel stuck, usually I've found that what you really have is a question you haven't formed in your head, and that question, answering that question, will get you past where you are. So if something isn't working, or you're not finding this IP, then you need to ask yourself, how do I find this IP? And then from there, you could say, well, what's the given? What do I have that I might be able to find the IP? And then work from there. Okay. Well, all right. Is a special address. Okay. We're still going on about the local host thing. Okay. Don't worry too much about that, guys. All right. Let's focus on hacking this thing. All right. But the scanning is a big deal. And you can use the scan to scan yourself. You can scan your local network at home and find out what devices you have running and go on from there. Yeah. So any other questions at all? And it could be about totally different stuff. If you're interested in learning more about looking for jobs like during COVID, or different tips and tricks, or you're interested in development and security, and you're wondering what's a good path for you, or what's important to know, I'm good for you guys for that too. And it doesn't need to go through the chat. You can just talk directly too. But if not, it's cool. Okay. Yeah. So Ben Ambrose, I really appreciate the clarification. But we'll try not to bog them down and be overly technical yet. We'll try and have them ask common sense questions, and we'll try and give them common sense answers. It's okay if 10% we're 10% wrong with our answers, as long as it's landing with people. So that's what I'm kind of going for right now. I want this to be as relatable to some things you've experienced in real life as possible. All right. No, it's good. It's good. Okay. All right. So no questions. Everybody's kind of cool with that. All right. No questions at all. All right. Cool. I would say I'm good to let you go if you guys want. If nobody has any questions at all, I will stay available on Slack. I'll look at the Discord too, and you can reach out to me otherwise. You have my Twitter, and I'm here if you have any questions at all or criticisms about the doc or anything like that. No problem with that. Just go through that walkthrough. Just know that I or one of the other officers are here for you if you guys need. But there's no reason to keep you over here if you don't have any questions. All right. Okie doke. All right. So aggro is my username on Discord. My name is just my name on Slack. So go ahead and feel free to DM me. I mean, you can't have a lot of questions if you're moving through the doc still, right? So you probably just haven't gotten to the part where you get stuck yet, or it takes time. So I will be available. All right, guys. But if that's all, I'll get back to living my life. All right. Thank you, guys. Peace out.
Thanks for everything, man.
Great,
Hell
thank
yeah.
you,
No
Elan.
problem. No problem at all. Thank you. Appreciate it, Scott.
And for those who are still here, if you want to work at your own pace, you can still log into NDG on your own time. Those pods will be up, like Elan said. And then his walkthrough is attached inside of NDG. So you can use that content viewer to walk through the PDF. And then if you have any questions, just reach out to Elan or myself about it, and we will be happy to answer any questions. Is there still any remaining confusion about kind of like the target IP and the host IP? I know there's some discussion in the Slack chat, the Zoom chat. So I wanted to make sure that it's clear now, or if
Yes.
there's still questions.
If anyone has questions on CIDR notation and subnet masks, I can more easily answer those questions verbally than through the Slack, than through the chat on Zoom. So if you have those kinds of questions, I can help with that as well.
Mm-hmm. I think the gist of it is that what Elan was doing was he was trying to determine his own IP address for the Kali Linux virtual machine, because we'll need that IP address for use with other tools, and we need to know our subnet range. And basically that just tells us what other boxes could be on our network, like what their IP addresses could be. And the way we find out which IP addresses have been assigned to machines on our network, we can use tools like Nmap. That's covered in the walkthrough. And that's how we figure out what the IP address is of our target machine. And that's the ridiculously easy virtual machine running Fedora Linux. So where Elan left off, we had only determined the IP address and subnet range of our host. We hadn't yet run Nmap to basically identify what other machines were on our network. So that's kind of the next step. Does that help clarify anything?
Okay. And if anyone wants a quick explainer on CIDR notation, which is not really important to know, by the way, I will give it to them. But that one's a little bit more complicated and not necessarily important to know right now.